Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com. And once again, we come to you from the Critical Blast Caverns, full of music, comics, and lots of love. Coming to you tonight with yet another crowdfunding opportunity. Tonight, we're talking with Greg Schoen, the man behind the Rascals. Greg, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you?
You know, I'm doing all right. I don't think I could get any better than I was last night. I had two lovely ladies on our stream last night.
I watched it.
You watched that? Okay.
That was really fun. Yeah, that was a crazy show.
You know what I learned from that? If you're going to have professional comedians on the show, don't try to be funny. You'll just embarrass yourself. So, and of course, Todd Livingston and Nick Kapatanakis are both they're professional stand-up comic guys, and
that was a really cool thing to see that whole team, and kind of the whole history of that project. So yeah, it was like wrangling rabbits, maybe.
Yeah, or yeah, exactly. And I didn't know how to lead the thing, so we'd have the awkward silence, like, are you guys going to say something funny, or do I need to move on to the next thing? And the thing is, they sent me lots and lots of pictures to use during the show.
Mm-hmm.
Very little of it got used, because I should have thought, why don't I throw the Indiegogo over on the second monitor, and then I don't have to switch back and forth, because if you have a monitor and a Chrome tab with StreamYard, you've got to say, okay, stop sharing this one, start sharing this one. And then you got to turn them off and turn them on. If I'd have just thrown it up on the second monitor, I could have just kept it up the whole time and just cycled through stuff. But, that's how we learn things. And this is, your second campaign. You've obviously learned things from the first one. What did you learn with the first one? I mean, is this a second book?
Okay, so this is the second book. The current campaign is the WRASKLES Song of the Banshee Artist Edition. So the first book was WRASKLES Crossroads at Porksburg, which is the origin of the Rascals. And as to the question about what did we learn? A lot. So first of all, I think it dawned on us, because Kurt, my co-creator, the artist on the book, he's an absolute genius. He and I kind of had met at San Diego Comic-Con, because we were both promoting books that we had through Arcana Studios, and we sat at the same table signing our books and talking, and we got along like so well, just making each other laugh and going out for lunches and then having dinner, and it was like we had known each other for a long time. And when I left, he said, hey man, do you want to work together someday? You always say that when you meet another guy, and you're sharing ideas, it's always like, hey, maybe we'll do something. Sure. So I thought, yeah, okay. Sure enough, like a week later, he contacts me and he sends me a picture of these characters, and he says, I have an idea. This is my idea. This is it. I said, okay. Yeah. So what do you got? And he said, well, let's have these characters maybe do like a mystery thing where they're solving crimes. And I thought about it, and that's not my kind of cup of tea. And I also thought about it. It's like, that escalates, right? It's so when do we have these four rabbits investigating homicides? Like I don't want to do that. So I thought supernatural elements. They are teen pop punk supernatural investigators kind of thing. So with the campaign for book one, we had lots of perks. We wanted to get the book out into people's hands, and we were kind of coming from that pitch and bitch mentality of, yeah, this is a thing that we can do as we'll just put it up on Indiegogo and we'll get it into people's hands. We'll have a property, and we always want to work on this. But we didn't understand that there is another market, I guess is what I'm trying to get to, is there is this huge secondary market right now that is just growing and developing, and it's just at its genesis, where you have these guys like Ethan Van Sciver and Zach and John Mallon, and all of these creators are the seeds of this new market.
Right.
And unless you really understand that and you understand your customer base, you can't do one of these things properly. So for the first book, it was a little bloated. We set our goal too high. Like that's like the no-brainer thing is we set our goal way too high. So then it's very hard to hit that 100%, so that you don't go on in demand. Like we didn't know any of that stuff. So we did fairly well with the first campaign. And really, we wanted this book to just fly out. So we were doing bundles. You buy 3 books, you get like a gaggle of stickers, just like a million stickers and a sketch. And if you look at the campaign now, it's so streamlined. We have 100 copies of the artist edition, which I'll get to in a bit. And then you can buy this if you want to jump in and get the Origin of the Rascals. You can do that as well. And just how you see the campaign is so much easier. And also we have a video, and Kurt is a professional animator. He's a director at Cartoon Network. He directed Tom and Jerry for 5 years. He teaches animation. So yeah, if we can watch it later, it's a big deal to be able to have that as the header for your campaign. And in our first one, we had nothing. We had a picture.
Videos have become very important to Kickstarters and Indiegogos because it just conveys so much more than the static picture of, here's a representation of the art you're going to get. And sure, you're not buying a cartoon. You're not going to have something animated and something you're going to watch. You're going to read this, but it gets across the emotion. Sometimes you'll get some voices for the characters, so you're like, oh, that's how I'm going to hear that character now when I read the book.
And the Rascals are a band. They are a pop punk band, and they tour, and their thing is, they're not running around punching people in the face. They are just trying to become world famous, and they're really, really good. So music is a big thing, and we wanted to convey that in the video as well. And Kurt, God bless him, he found the perfect sounds to get on there that we could use legally. So yeah.
I was going to say, when I play the video, I know it's going to happen. I'm going to get an email from YouTube in about 2 days, about 2 hours, saying,
"No, it's all good."
Well, I know you say that, but apparently there are sites out there that look for music and just claim it. Because I had somebody just earlier this week again. They said, "Oh yeah, I downloaded this off of the Free Music America thing, and it's perfectly." Perfectly good. It's perfectly legal. I said, okay, we're good. And sure enough, YouTube said, yeah, so-and-so says it's their music. So this time, though, I looked it up, and I looked up their name, and I looked up the name of the song they said it was, and it was a completely different song. And I was like, yeah, I know that they're not penalizing me for this. I know I'm not getting a strike. They're just like getting statistics. They don't deserve it. It's not their song. Here are the links. Compare yourself. No. And I disputed it. I haven't heard back yet, but it's the first time I've disputed something like that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So they are a band, and as you said, and that's one of the things that sets them apart. I think I can't scroll there. I've got to go to here to scroll, because what it reminds me of a band that fights supernatural mysteries. The first thing I think of is Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah, it's a genre.
Yeah, not the comic book, but the cartoon series.
Yeah, I remember that actually, Josie and the Pussycats. Yeah, so with the Rascals, basically they're on their way. In the first book, they're on their way to a gig in Porksburg, and their old jalopy van breaks down, and a an old goat approaches them and says, "Hey, listen, I want to have a musical contest with you. If you beat me, I'll fix your van." And they don't even ask what happens if he wins. They're so desperate. And they're teenagers, so they're very impulsive. But they end up winning, and turns out the old goat is actually a demon, and he complains. He says, I've had 1,000 of these over 1,000 years, and I've never lost. You cheated, so I'm going to curse you, and you're going to be cursed until you play a song better than the one that beat me. And so they're like, okay, whatever, the van's working, let's go. And they go to the gig, and that's the whole start of the story for the Rascals. Is they're always kind of cursed to run into supernatural things, and they also kind of come away with it with a gift or a curse. You can kind of decide which is which. So Alana, who is the kind of the sweetheart of the band, her bag is basically a bag of holding. Yeah, her grandma gave it to her when she was 10 years old, and it's very precious to her. So if she opens it, she can basically contain things inside of it. Tony is given a gift that will become apparent later, but he doesn't use it because it's not cool. And Tony is all about being cool. He's hyper egotistical. Max is given the drummer is given the voice. So basically, Max is possessed by a ghost when they encounter the supernatural, and this ghost is a very know-it-all ghost. So it always likes to tell everybody what they're actually talking about. So they'll say, I saw something, and Max will become possessed by this ghost who's a know-it-all and likes to tell them, well, actually, that's a gremlin, and gremlins do this, and this is what happens. And then when he comes out of it, he can't remember what he said. So they're constantly asking Max, what is it? And Max is like, guys, I have no idea even what you're talking about. Like, and then finally, we have Rosie. And Rosie is she plays keyboards, but she's also the roadie and the techie for the band. And she's given the sight. So Rosie can actually communicate with supernatural beings, and she can see them. Wow. So yeah, so she's the one that can suss out, like, there's actually something there. This is what's happening. This is a supernatural event.
Gotcha.
And
and they just go from gig to gig around the world.
They are trying to become successful. They're just trying to be a good band. That's really the number one goal for the Rascals, is just to play music and have a good time. And Tony wants to become more famous than Justin Bieber. And Alana likes the fashion, Max likes the food, and Rosie is really just there to help everybody.
Are there a lot of animal puns in there, like Justin Bieber?
Yeah, man, for sure.
So, because one of my favorite funny animal books growing up was Scott Shaw's Captain Carrot and the Amazing Zoo Crew.
Oh, so good, right? That was actually a really, really good book.
I've got the notice it's right here within arm's reach. I've got the entirety of it in that black and white showcase format, including the only reason I really I bought it because it's Captain Carrot, but I was extremely pleased that they included this exquisitely well done 3-part miniseries, Captain Carrot, The Oz Wonderland War. They did a 3-issue miniseries that they were sucked into, like an Earth C- or something. Mm-hmm. And it was all the characters from Oz and all the characters from Wonderland, and they were fighting each other.
Yeah, one of the cool things that happened recently was it Grant? I think it was Grant Morrison's Infinite Crisis, when all the Supermen from all of the worlds came in, and Captain Carrot was one of them. Yeah. I was like, yo, that's awesome. That's super cool to include him in there. And
then they turned him into like a real rabbit somewhere along the way.
Yeah, they did.
Like, how did he come back? Now he's come back since then with one of the crises. Everybody was on the Ark. It was the final Ark, and they landed on Earth 1, and they all popped out, and they were like real animals. And Zatanna picks him up. Somewhere along the way, he becomes Captain Carrot again. Never saw how that happened. I really wanted to be there for that event, but
yeah, that was a cool series. Who did the art? Who was the original artist on that series? Was that Perez?
On which
On
original
Captain
series?
Carrot, the first arc of Captain Carrot.
Oh, no. Let's see. Well, I mean, maybe because you're thinking it was appeared in New Teen Titans number 16 first, and that was definitely Perez in there. But the penciler was Ross Andrew and Scott Shaw. And then on the regular series, yeah, it was all Scott Shaw ! And Ross Andrew.
Oh wow.
Pretty much all the way through.
Yeah, that was a
Al
great
Morgan
book.
And then,
But you know what? Yeah, you know what? It's interesting that you bring up Captain Carrot, because Captain Carrot, like we were talking about in the pre-show here, was one of those books that would be laying around.
Yeah.
Every kid's house. It would be on a coffee table. Everybody had an issue of Captain Carrot, and you know the parents read it because it was sitting there on the coffee table, you know, with a coffee ring stain on it. I mean, it's you know the parents picked up Captain Carrot and could enjoy it just as much as the kids, and that's exactly what we're going for with the Rascals. There's a couple goals we have, but one of them is that shared experience. We want the kids and the parents and anybody reading the book to just kind of latch on to the characters and understand, you know, the premise.
And they're unique enough in their characterizations, the way you describe them, that I think they're not just like 4 interchangeable rabbits. And,
no, definitely not. They're very unique personalities. And it's cool with a band too, right? Because they play different instruments. So you can really link them, and everybody has this pastiche in their mind about what a band would be like, especially teenagers, and add the pop punk into it. And then you get all of these things, and they argue a lot. You know, it's teenagers have differing opinions about things, and they're not afraid to express themselves. And that's one thing where you can really show their characterizations and make them special.
Now, I mentioned how this reminded me of, the cartoon series of Josie and the Pussycats because of the band traveling and fighting mysteries. Of course, there was also, the Groovy Ghoulies. They actually were the supernatural characters, but had their own band. With Kurt's experience with Cartoon Network, is there any talk about, possibly expanding out the Rascals into something of that old style crime-solving music team?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, we have multiple goals, and the number one goal is we want these books, we want the Rascals to be an ever-present thing in that market that I just spoke about. And that was a big realization for us is, wow, okay, you have the Marvel DC Image and these other things. There's not even an outlet for them right now.
Yeah.
So, okay, we can continue to try to get the Rascals in the public space by going through that method and then go through that standard chain. But it's very quickly become apparent that we don't have to do that. We can, those people that I just talked about, that, the people who are going to really like a book like this, they're out there. We just have to touch them. We just have to show them this book, and we can give it to them directly. So we always want the Rascals to be present. We're always going to have a campaign. So it's our thing is we always want the Rascals to be out there in this new market for this genre of book. We want the Rascals to be the leaders of that. So if you're going to be thinking about this independent creator-owned market, if you're looking at a family-friendly, fun, interesting book, then people will just automatically associate it with the Rascals. And then moving forward, yes, of course, we want it to be an animated series. I'm working with a director at Cartoon Network. The guy did Tom and Jerry for 5 years. I mean, he knows the business that we would maybe want to move into later. But the primary thing is keeping the Rascals, which means keeping it fun, keeping it comic book, keeping it bombastic, developing the IP through the books so that people get to know the characters. And then in the future, if we wanted to do something with Cartoon Network or Netflix or something like that, they're really well established. And it's very easy to show another big company that we're kind of, we're avoiding that by going the other market, but we can show them all of this material and say, look, this is actually what we've developed, and this is the feeling that Rascals bring, and this is who likes it, and this is why you would want to do it. And then that way you'll have more control of that property when it goes into the next phase, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can also, bring to them the fact that this is a book that didn't go to stores where, we shoved it off on people after we made it. This was backed by people who wanted it. This went straight into readers' hands.
Yep.
This was a demanded product.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times, you can make an indie book, and if you can talk a store into carrying it, great. But that doesn't mean the store is going to sell it to anybody.
Right.
Which is, one of the big arguments that, is made for the crowdfunding element, that, it's going directly into readers' hands. These things are being read.
Yeah.
So speaking of animation, let's take a look at the animated trailer that's put onto the page here. Because
I just texted Kurt to make sure that the music was okay to play.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter. Love how he hits those beats just right. Very cool. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you want to stand up and cheer for him now. So the name of the book, The Rascals, did that have anything to do with a certain Wascally Wabbit?
No, it didn't. And I was actually I thought for sure, because it's actually Kurt's idea for the name for the band. And I thought for sure there's already a band called the Rascals, spelled like this. And there was a band, I think, from the 60s called the Rascals, but with an R, Rascals. Mm-hmm. And we checked it, and it was free. And so it was a no-brainer. But Rascally Rabbit never came into the equation. Well, yeah.
With the name free for a band, you know what that means. You've got to do now. You've got to do the Archies thing and brand it as a band. Get that sugar thing going and put out.
Oh, dude, that would be awesome. Yeah. Yeah. What we want to do probably moving into the future is, and Kurt says, yeah, he bought the music, so it's all good. So the thing that we want to do in the future is, if they do become an animated series, is if they do travel around the world, right? We expose them to kind of hits from those countries, but like top 40 stuff. So they would be doing covers, and maybe they wouldn't necessarily be playing, but they do interact with other countries' bands. So maybe it would, every episode or every comic, there's always a song, which is really challenging for me as a writer, because I got to write these songs, but it's a very neat challenge. Yeah. But yeah, definitely, let's get some of that. Let's get some of that going.
Yeah, I mean, if you get this into a series, of course, first of all, not only do they have to meet Justin Bieber at some place, but who has to voice the character. You've got to get stars in here to do their own little anthropomorphic versions of themselves.
Yeah, Justin Bieber, Kurt Cobain. I mean, there's
that'd be hard.
Just talking about this campaign.
Yes.
And
back to her.
The Rascals Song of the Banshee Artist Edition. Can you scroll down a little bit to
Absolutely.
show? Yeah. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to show people in this limited campaign, there's only 100 of these books going out, because this is going to show people how we actually make a Rascals book. It's a very different process. So It's an old process. We use the Marvel way of making this book. I do not write full scripts for Kurt to go by every panel. I write a story.
Okay.
And then Kurt interprets that story and puts it on the page. And then I go back and I write the dialogue over what he's interpreted. So it gives the book a really different feeling compared to modern stories. We don't use a standard 5-panel grid. So just a little plug for myself. I actually have a YouTube channel called Comic Script Writing with Greg Schoen, where I go over things like this. But in a modern comic, there's a lot of pacing issues because they have to stick to that 22 or 24 page format. And what a lot of modern comic readers do is they use the 5-panel grid to pace the comic out because it's very, very simple to do what we call reveals. So when you turn the page, what's on the next page should be quite stunning, right? It should be either cutting to a scene or continuing a scene in a very jarring way. But by doing the book in the old Marvel style, I'm not limiting Kurt. I trust Kurt implicitly because of that relationship we built at San Diego Comic-Con, making each other laugh. I know Kurt's sense of humor. I know the guy can get the job done. So I have nothing but trust in him visually. And then he has nothing but trust in me to show what I was originally intending through the dialogue. So when you're talking about characterization, we really go strong on these characters because it's two of us, each kind of interpreting them in our own way. So they're multifaceted characters. It'd be very easy to have a fat drummer who likes to eat.
Sure.
But you know, and it's fun for him to show that. But you know, a fat drummer who's a bit cowardly and very friendly and always upbeat and doesn't know what's happening because he gets possessed by this ghost, and you know, he's really kind of he's at odds with, he wants to help the band, but at the same time he wants to kind of he wants to pursue his own interests. That comes across because it's two different people working on the character in their own way. So what we want to show is this book will, like I said, it's only limited to 100 copies. It's going to have his original artwork, which you can see there. All of that is his original line work, lettering, and some basic what he calls pencil coloring to show a bit of color.
Okay.
And then at the final 2 pages are going to be a line from the story that he has interpreted. And then it's going to be his breakdowns showing how he read that story, that part of the story, and how he made it a page. And then it's going to show my script for that page, the dialogue that I've written to go with that line work. And then it will show the completed page. So it's actually giving people who maybe in the future want to do one of these projects by themselves, or they don't know where to start to write or make a comic. They don't know how to, you know, there's an artist out there going, well, how can I pair with somebody and not have them control me? We want to show people that. Yeah. We want to show that you can actually bang these books out in the traditional way using the most modern methods, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. And what that delivers is almost a condensed version of Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics, which in itself is a great read. But if you can,
it's an amazing,
step by step in action here with a comic you're now holding, it reaches the reader in a different way and teaches in a different way. I write manuscript. I write books. And one of the things that I do when I have writing seminars at conventions is I show people this manuscript. The William Schoen manuscript is what it's called. And it's written by William Schoen, and it's a manuscript that tells you how to write a manuscript. And it's doing it as you're reading it. And it's just, I thought it was such a unique process. So he talks about, double spacing and not putting extra spaces after periods, and how to start a page and stop a page, and where to put the end marker at if it's even necessary. All the details, but he's showing it as it goes along. That's what this is going to do, I think.
That's our goal. We want to give people the next book, but the next campaign after this is going to be this book in its entirety, and then something else. But for this one, we just wanted to get it out there because we want to show people how we're making this and how fun it is, and how it can come across from just a story. And I think probably the tone of our books and the pacing of our books gets its kind of originality from having that story. Writing a story, as you well know, if you're a writer, script writing is its own thing. And I do like to do that with other artists, is to break it down by panel, because I really want to control it, and I want it to be my voice getting through with their interpretation of my voice. But when you write a story, I'm not even thinking about the comic. I'm not thinking just in visual terms, and I'm not thinking about breaking it down into that grid. I'm trying to write a really enjoyable short story. So the more enjoyment I can give Kurt through that story, the more enjoyment he's going to have, and the more inspired he's going to be when he actually draws it. And so it's a very interesting process.
Yeah, getting comic book political here, not politics, but comic book politics. If the artist isn't enthused by the story, it really does show in their work. And my example for that has always been the last few months, John Romita Jr., and seeing how he did Kelly Sue DeConnick's story in Detective 1027, which was brilliant. And how he does in Action Comics under Brian Michael Bendis, which is less than, because it's you can see that there's more care taken. You're enjoying the story, you're putting stuff into it. You bore an artist, they're going to be bored while they're drawing it.
And I mean, the thing is too, I mean, I always want to have Kurt's name first on the books. Usually it's the writer than the artist. But we're really co-creating this. This isn't, like I said, just me controlling this story and saying, this is it. Draw what I want you to draw, because this is my story. It's our story, and it's our characters. And this is a really collaborative thing to make a book like this. And I don't think you get the fun unless you think that the guy that you're working with is simpatico with the sense of humor and what we want and our goals. So I'm very, very fortunate in this project to have a partner like Kurt. So yeah, I don't want to, he always gets mad and says I blow him up too much, but he putting little things like this, and making stickers that are banned. Like this is something you would see on a light post in your hometown, right?
I was just going to say, I want to go around and put them down in the University City District in St. Louis here.
Yeah, and everything he does is genius in my mind. People look at this and it's easy to look at it and go, yeah, it's cartoony, and then you really start looking at it and you realize the guy's pretty checked out when it comes to skill level and how he's portraying these characters and how he can get the energy across. And my 9-year-old loves it. My 4-year-old, or he's 10 now, actually. My 10-year-old loves it. My 4-year-old loves it. The adults that have bought it have written to me and just said, thanks, man. That was I haven't had something like this in a long time. So mission accomplished. We're running with it now.
So just to reiterate, what is the campaign here? This is book 2 is going to be I lost the title there, Song of the Banshee. But yes, this isn't the finished book 2. This is the artist.
That's right. This is the artist edition. It's limited to 100 copies. It's a look inside of how you actually make these books. We're also selling book 1 again. This campaign, is really streamlined compared to the last one. The last one was like going into an Applebee's and looking at that crazy menu. This one's old McDonald's. It's either a burger or a cheeseburger. So you can get You could get the artist edition. We're going to throw in 5 of those stickers, probably these ones here, a sketch card, and Kurt on the inside cover of every book does a sketch and signs it.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's
and
cool.
then the next campaign will actually be this book, the finished product.
Finished book 2,
the standard
stickers.
product.
Yeah, and we're also looking at having other perks in the next campaign. Like, you know, we're trying to figure out how to do T-shirts and things like that. But fulfilling them and mailing them would just be nuts, right? You would have to charge twice as much for everything just to be able to mail it.
Yeah, I would put you in touch with Luke Stone, who is doing T-shirts for Hybrids. He was on a couple of days ago, and he was wearing his shirt. It was a really sharp-looking shirt, and it's part of his package. But yeah, that does get more expensive. Speaking of the expense, for those who are glancing at this and not reading closely, this is $20 Canadian, which means it's almost free in the United States here.
Yeah, Japan too.
Yeah, it's $15 in US dollars. Now I haven't clicked through it, and $11 for the book. If you want to get book 1 and see what they did before, this would be the place to do that. I don't know how that would impact the shipping, of course, since it is coming from Canada. I don't think shipping from Canada counts as international to the United States.
We get $5. Yep, $5 shipping. What killed us last time, and it was really our inexperience, but we did bundles. So we really wanted people who got the book to have as many of them as they could so that they could give it around to other people. So, you know, I had lots of people buy it and then they were like, well, I wanted one for me and my kids. And then I gave 2 more out. So we were doing bundle packs of 3. So that was 3 books, tons of stickers, 2 sketch cards, and that killed us with shipping. Because it just went over that weight limit where we went into the next level, and we learned from that. And we would love to do bundles again, but that will kill you.
Yeah, the only time I've seen bundles work is when it's an even bigger bundle than 3, where it's like 5, 10, and it's a retailer bundle, and you drop the price of the book to make up for the cost of the shipping, and knowing that they're going to put it on store shelves and work with it.
That's a great idea. See, always learning, right? That is a fantastic idea.
I know that's something that doing comics, except doing comics. I don't do any myself. I just talk to people who do.
Any interest?
I mean, I do have the interest in so far as I've edited books. Critical Blast is a publishing site as well as a review site. So we did this 20 stories of The Devil which was 20 stories of people encountering the devil. And then on my own, for Destroyer books, I write these novels featuring Remo Williams, the Destroyer.
No, that's awesome, dude. I love Remo Williams.
I've just done the last 3 books. There are 2 more manuscripts in. I'm trying to get them now.
That's awesome.
So that's a lot of fun. But yeah, I've had a couple of stories that I've been like sitting on to do novels, and I'm like, yeah, I don't have anybody to purchase it. And the one thing I don't want to do is publish my own novels under the Critical Blast umbrella until I'm a lot more prolific, I guess, in here. But I was thinking one of them I could see being turned into like a Books of Magic kind of book. It was all a boy, fairyland, and the internet. And I don't want to give the MacGuffin away for people who will listen and steal it because we're very paranoid writers.
They will steal it. Yeah.
And if I talk about it too much, people who don't know about it will just dip into the well of ideas, and I will magically be filling it, and they'll get the same idea. That's how we ended up with at least five different bespectacled kids who learn their wizards and go to a school for it.
Oh man, yeah, that's our generation, though, right? It's So I live in Japan, and Japan is very like drinking is it's the socially acceptable way of getting to know your coworkers. Oh, okay. So it's weird, right? Like in North America, you might say to somebody at work, "Hey, you want to go for a drink?" Right?
Right.
That's how you would. Yeah, let's go get a beer. Let's go for a drink. Here, you actually say, "Let's go drinking." Like, let's really go get hammered. Let's go do this. And it's totally okay because it's not a drug, it's just a beverage.
Sure.
So yeah, that's the thinking. So I was sitting at the table full of people, and it was millennials, right? Which are great. They're great people. I work with them all the time. And they start talking about Harry Potter, and I start going, yeah, you mean like Books of Magic, you know?
Yeah, Tim Hunter.
There's Tim Hunter. There's this other thing out there that that was before Tim, and they had no idea. And you know, you can't blame them. It's just a little before their time, but yeah, bespectacled kids with owls. Yeah,
just a touch. Yeah, I was I worked at a place in St. Louis. It was a research district, and there were like several companies in the same building. It's just like renting out places. I went downstairs for an after work meeting that they were going to have of web developers. I'm like, yeah, I need some help on my website. I'm going to go down because they talk the same language. And I won't say the name of the company, but it was like this big table. And they're like, yeah, you guys want a drink? I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get something. They had a tap in the office. And like, yeah, we can drink from this anytime during the day we want. I was like,
that's awesome.
Welcome back to the 60s. It's
yeah. When I moved to Japan, that was my thing, where I just kept on having flashbacks of the 80s. You know, they like 80s pop music here, so it plays all over. That's one thing. There's a lot of chrome on the buildings, which is another thing. There's a lot of tile in shopping malls and on the streets and stuff. So that was another thing. And the other one was smoking in restaurants.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, they just recently for the Olympics, which of course didn't happen, but they just recently made it where you can't smoke in restaurants anymore. So, I mean, you'd be sitting there, I'd be sitting there with my kids, and there'd be like somebody like right beside me, just like, oh, this is crazy. I can't believe that they still do this. But yeah, it was always big time 80s flashbacks for me.
But you know what Japan's really got going on is comic book vending machines.
Vending machines for everything. They love them. Every corner you go here. Have you ever been to Japan?
I have not.
You should come. Everybody should come. But they have vending machines almost on every corner. Like even in the suburbs, if you're just walking down and there's houses, there'll be a vending machine on the corner.
Wow, that's really cool. But I've been impressed by how animation and comic books are not the kid thing. Animation is just another way of telling a story. Comic books are just another way of telling a story, and it's perfectly acceptable for anybody to be reading any of those formats.
Well, yeah, and they're and what's really cool is they have genres for everything, right? So in North America, it's capes, and then after capes, you have crime, adult stuff, but whatever. It's very limited. It really is. And in Europe, you're a little better, where now they have murder mysteries. They don't have capes really. They have a lot of old, not old, but period piece stuff, like stories about Rome, stories about the medieval times, stories about Africa, stories about this, and then they have science fiction, and their version of science fiction is just crazy, blown out of proportion, everything. In Japan, if you like basketball, they have basketball comics. If you're an office lady, an OL, they have OL comics. Like one day I was reading a comic and my wife was reading a manga, and I said, she's Japanese, and I said to her, hey baby, what are you reading? She's like, oh, Kumiko has had a conflict with her coworker and she's being stalked. That's the genre. If you go to it would blow your mind, man. If you go to a bookstore here, the section for manga is 3 or 4 aisles, and manga are this big, right?
Yeah. And
it's just thousands of them of every genre. And you see a granny, you see a young girl, you see a middle-aged salaryman, and you see a teenage boy, all in these different aisles. And, they're catering to those customers, and they read them nonstop, and they come out every week.
It's getting bigger over here in the United States. It seems to mostly, attract the young girls, but it's spreading. I don't think because they don't bring over quite the range of genre that you have there domestically. But I know my son's getting into the anime portion of it. My son's going to turn 13 later this month. So he was a big Beyblade, not Pokemon, but one of the other ones. I don't know. The problem with the ones that I see in America all the time are that you could open up 3 different mangas and I would assume that they were 3 issues of the same story because the characters are all, it's that one style that really pervades. And I know there's multiple styles because I've seen them, but it's always going to be the spiky haired kid with, with the green dye.
Yeah, that's high school manga. That's the high school stuff. And they, it's like high school gangs, and then they have high school romance. Yeah, there's all these different genres. I personally am not into manga. I never have been. I think the only thing that I've ever really liked was I loved Akira, which I think is more influenced by European and North American comics than anything. And Blade of the Immortal, which I read through Dark Horse, right? And I read it when they printed it in the right way instead of reading it, backwards kind of thing.
Sure.
So I'm surrounded by it, but I have no interest in it really. Yeah.
Well, we had last week we had Kazu Kibayushi on here, who does Amulet for Scholastic, and his statement to me was that manga just means comics, so it could be any comics. Of course, America thinks of that specific style, but the Rascals is just another manga. It's another comic.
Yeah, Rascals would be big in Japan because it's kawaii, and
that's
cute is everything.
how that would be accepted.
Yeah, kawaii is number one here. If it's cute, it's okay.
Okay, well, it's definitely cute looking. It's anthropomorphic, funny animal kind of deal. I would encourage anybody watching the stream right now to not debate really about which of these 2 you should pick, whether you should get the book 1 or book 2 artist edition. You're talking about less than $30 here. You're talking about $26. Your basic crowdfunding is going to run you at least $40.
Yep.
And I guess now I know that they're getting thicker books. I haven't really asked about how big the books are as far as page count goes. Book 1
is 36.
Okay.
Book 1 is 36 pages, and book 2 is going to be 40.
Well, that's when book 2 is finished, it'll be 40. But the artist edition is also
that's 40.
That's 40.
Yeah. Yeah. When it's finished, I think it'll probably be 40 as well. We'll just take those 2 pages of creative, the process, and we'll just put in some other stuff. One thing we're really big on, well, 2 things we're really big on. I'd like to make this clear to anybody watching is we give you a lot, and we give it to you at a very high quality because, like I said, we want these things to last. So, our covers are very thick. We use the best quality ink for the pages. Everything is bound nicely. It is a nice thing to have. We always throw in a gaggle of stickers for you to have. We always throw in sketches for you to have to make the experience. We also give you sketch cards that Kurt draws by hand. With us, there's always going to be more for a good price because we want people and their families, and we want everybody to have the Rascals. Okay. And number 2 is fulfillment. So we finish a Rascals book before we send it out. So our fulfillment will always be done 2 to 3 weeks after the campaign closes. We will always be sending the books out. Okay.
Right.
So with this campaign for North American backers, we are really, really hoping to get people the books before Christmas, because we know that people are going to be having their Christmas break, lying around, sharing stories, reading comics, and we want people to have the Rascals. We want them to have it for Christmas. So we're really committed to quality, and we're really committed to getting people the product quickly. We're not trying to make a gaggle of cash off the Rascals. We're trying to make the Rascals a household name that everybody enjoys, and we're trying to give it to them in the best way possible, through quality of story, through quality of artwork, and through the quality of the product itself.
Yeah, I didn't notice at first that it was Canadian dollars for the levels, for the tiers. I was going to ask, why'd you have such a odd um, goal here, but now I'm sure that's probably a conversion to U.S. dollars.
That's the conversion, yeah.
Like $750. It's oddly specific.
Well, we learned a lot off the first campaign. It's $1,000 Canadian. We run it out of Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And our first campaign, the goal was just way too high, and people like to back a winner. It's some sort of weird consumer psychology, right? Where they go, ooh, it's only 17% funded. I don't know if I want that. But if they see something that's 100%, they jump on board really quickly.
Yes, they
so
do.
There's also the fact that we didn't know about in demand, and we, when we did it, so we didn't look into it too quickly, because the realization of the market and how big it is and how people are really, that's going to be the way, I think, in the future for people to get this content.
It absolutely will.
You're right. And like I said, we came from the pitch and bitch mentality of, if we want to be comic creators, then we have to put our heart and soul into something and send it to somebody to judge whether or not they're going to print it and sell it. And then, are they really going to sell it? Are they going to put it in previews and then not do anything with it?
Sure.
Because, you can try to promote it as much as you want, but it's not yours anymore either.
And a lot of times, smaller publishers, if Diamond doesn't want to carry it, now Diamond's no longer the only game in town, so that's quickly falling by the wayside, and it's
huge. Yeah.
But if they didn't like it, they could just say we don't want to put it in our catalog. And if it wasn't in previews, you weren't selling your book anywhere.
When I was, how do I put this? I don't want to get into a complaint fest here, but I started writing comics. I love comics my whole life. Since I was like 4 years old, I was reading comics, and I've always been a creative person. Yeah, always been a creative person. I've done things theatrically and whatever, and I always needed an outlet. And when I was 25 years old, I decided, I want to make comics. I want to write. I love these things so much. I want to make them. And I swore to myself that by the time, that was when I was 25. Okay. And I swore to myself by the time I was 30, I would be a published comic creator. I didn't get published until I was 40. Yeah. And I think I made a lot of really bad scripts. I think I wrote a ton of bad stories. Okay. But I think I did enough bad work that I knew what was good. Sure. And I was really, really lucky at the beginning to have a mentor and somebody to look at my work. And his name is Igor Corday. And I met him when he was drawing New X-Men with Grant Morrison.
Yeah. And
he was such a nice guy, and we got along so well that he would read my scripts. And I just started writing comics. And he would read, I would send him 6 whole issues, and he would take the time to read the whole series, and then we would sit down and have beers, and he would just rip me apart. And just that, Greg, oh, this is terrible. I mean, why? Like, well, how would you do this? But he would always leave me with one thing. That alien invasion story you wrote is so like hackneyed and crappy and bad, and this is garbage and blah, blah, blah. But this thing was really good, and that's why you want to put this in a comic book. So when I started, I had somebody tearing me apart. Then I started getting into, you're pairing with artists, trying to find, I give so much credit to an artist that can actually do this job, because as much as it takes us as writers to sit down and put our ideas out, and, I have a really terrible writing style where I write subconsciously. I just plant a seed and then go play with my kids, and like maybe a month, maybe a year later, it comes to me and it'll get on the page. But an artist is going to sit at that table and they are going to draw for hours and hours and hours and hours. What you took, to write that one line, he sits in the studio. He has a headset on. That guy has to draw that. That's going to take a long time, man. So you start realizing what the artist needs to do and if they can do it. And as much as I love artists and I appreciate them, I did meet a bunch of bad ones. that would commit to doing a project and not fulfill it.
Yep.
And then I met some good ones that would actually do the work, and we would get the 7 pages done. And, you know, I've written the first arc and the artist, you know, and but whatever. And then you send it out and you get denied. And that happens over and over and over and over and over again, until where you're saying to yourself, I know this. I know what my influences are. I know what is a good story. I know that it was good enough for this really capable person who's also doing this wanted to draw it. And I know that it would be sold, but somebody along the line said, we don't agree with you. Well, this new market takes away that completely. There is no gatekeeping anymore.
Sure.
There is nobody making a decision to get your idea into somebody's hands. And it's going to blow up, man. This stuff is going to blow up. We are just at the beginning of this. You know, as more people get comfortable with Indiegogo and Kickstarter and waiting for their books instead of, you know, having to go and pick them up from a Dropbox, which they can't even get access to a lot of the time right now.
Right.
It's fantastic. It's such an exciting time.
You know, I just had a revelation here as you were discussing how, you know, pitching your books. We hear a lot about how, you know, you have the publisher and you have the retail store and then you have the readers, and how the readers are not the direct customer of the publisher. The store is. The publisher just wants to sell to the store. They don't care if anybody reads it after that because they've sold their book. Now it's up to the publisher to pitch it. You only have one customer in your in that former model. One guy in that publishing house that, you know, and that's got to be so hard to sell to one person who can just say no and walk away, and you can't say but because he's like, doors closed. You don't get a second shot. Here you're like, the world is your customer, and you know that's like 8 billion people. 7 billion people can say no. 7.5 billion people can say no. If you know, if 1,000 of them out of 8 billion say yes, you sold a hell of a lot more comics than you did to the one guy at the publishing house.
And you're communicating directly with the customer. So it's a revolutionary thing. And you know, there's a really cool thing that's happening now too, where these established, you know, pros are coming over now, and they're and I think for them it's you know, it's not a creative thing where they're like, wow, I get to reach people and develop this. And I think for them, they're going, oh, there's a lot of money over there. Well, and so they're coming. Yeah. And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. As much as Van Sciver and John Malin hit the 6 figures and higher. But, you know, there have been professionals who've gone the crowdfunding route before and raised money and still haven't delivered a product. And they're professionals in the industry. And you know, I won't name names, but people watching will know who I'm talking about. There's been some that are 6 years late, and they've taken the money and it's not refunded, and there's no product put out. So
it's theft.
Yeah, it's theft.
It's theft, and you know, it's something that in our first campaign, I wrote a paragraph about it where we just want you to know that we're not trying to get rich off of this, and we're not trying to live a lifestyle based upon this book. We're trying to get you the book so that you can enjoy the Rascals because we like the Rascals. And that's why we make that commitment and that statement about fulfillment. And that's why we finish the books before we market them. So we all we need to do is go to the printer. When it ends, the campaign ends, we just go to the printer. And then as soon as they come back, we send out the books. It's a very simple process.
Yeah, and you're almost halfway funded in less than 24 hours. So that's got to be making you guys feel real positive about the outcome of this book.
Oh, very much so. But again, it's we saw what we did wrong in the first campaign, and the second campaign, I think this is going to be a good one for us, especially because the real key is that animation. Kurt's so talented, and it's easy to pass the Rascals off as it's too cartoony. But then anybody who's going to take a look at that is going to go, I got to see what this is about. You know,
And
it's
you talked
so
about,
much energy.
yeah, and you talked about how people like tobacco winter, and that there's that psychology of seeing something at 100%. There's also another advantage to that for the crowdfunders, and that's that when you do hit that 100% funding, and you get more, and that you get above 100% funded, the algorithms at Indiegogo see that. And then they start saying, it doesn't matter if you were asking for $5 and you got 15, that's 300% funded. This is hot. It's going to get promoted to the front page of the comics section and say, hey, you're here to buy comics. This one is really popular. Everybody likes this one. You should go take a look at it. And it directs traffic to it. So
that's another learning curve. We put our goal too high on the first one, and it was buried. And it was impossible to find. It was hard for me if I went through another platform to find my own comic on Indiegogo. Like unless you searched for the Rascals. If you went to comics, I think it was on like 20 or something like it was so far in, and it was better than a lot of the stuff that was ahead of it. There's a lot of guys putting stuff up that probably isn't of the quality that is going to be comparable to like a Van Sciver or a Rascals book or something like that. But God bless them. I hope everybody gets funded. I love the fact that those guys who are just starting already see that they can put their books up, and I think that's really rad when you see somebody like putting up a book that they've drawn in pen, with bubble muscles and stuff, and 10 people have backed it already. I love it.
It's because somebody's going to back it. If your mom and her sewing circle are backing the book, well, at least you won't get a sustainable career off of that, but you can at least say I did something, and maybe it'll inspire you to do something more. But the market exists to allow for that. I'm going to get in there and back it because I want those stickers for one thing. I'm a bit of a sticker holic, I guess. Sticker Mule found us, and we've got these.
Oh, that's a nice one.
Yeah, this is the 3-inch hollow foil, so it's going to have this little rainbow effect off of it here. And by the way, we give these away to people who are watching our streams. You can get one. All you got to do is just send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Critical Blast at 1097 Prestwick Drive, Belleville, Illinois 62221. Yeah, go ahead, dox me. I dare you. Because I dox myself every night.
Those would look really good on a helmet. I always put round stickers on my helmets. Like, that would look really cool. Be good for bike riding.
I got you.
In Tokyo, it's the best way to get around. If you live in Tokyo, if you have a bike, that's the best way to get around.
I can imagine that because I hear it's pretty crowded.
Yeah, you think?
A little bit.
Yeah, it's nuts. I don't want to get too much into coronavirus, but the cases here are so low. And you can get the testing now, like anywhere. At first they kind of hid stuff because of the Olympics. They were like, no, you gotta keep, nobody's got it. And then it blew up a bit. But compared to like other places, like I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, okay, which is in the middle of Canada.
Right.
Population, I think 1 million people. Like, there is nothing but social distancing in Canada, right? If you go outside my door right now, it's like going to like a county fair. It's you're literally this close to people, right?
Right.
Nobody's got corona. Like it's all the schools are open. It's not an issue.
What are we doing wrong over here?
Masks and in certain parts of the world, because they do studies here. Like, why don't we have it? That's their thing. And the Japanese culture, you don't shake hands here. People don't hug here.
Yep.
Everybody, as soon as like it's flu season, everybody wears a mask, right? And it's a no-brainer. If we know that droplets from coughing and sneezing in your nose and your mouth are probably how this thing's going to get transferred, everybody just wears a mask. You go outside. If I'm on my bike, I don't wear it because you can kind of steer around people. But if you're walking, put on a mask. People don't wear shoes in the house here. That's a big one. So if you're walking outside and then you walk into your house, you know, you're picking stuff up off the ground. And I don't know, some people like to say it's because they're so clean. That's kind of a, you know, a very Japanesey thing to say, but I don't think that's it. I think it's the main thing is we don't shake hands, we don't hug. People aren't close talkers in Japan. You know, if you're talking to a Japanese person, generally they don't like to be very close.
Okay.
It's just very polite here. You know, you don't go up and go, "Hey man, how you doing?" You know, you go, "Hi." You keep your distance. I think that's it. And I think it's really, really simple.
Well, I've been living in a basement for the last 6 months, so that's what kept me healthy.
Bunkered up.
Bunkered up. Yeah, my company sent us home. My day job sent us home. So I'm like, okay, so I get up at 7 in the morning. I'm down here at 7:30. I'm working till 5 o'clock. I close the computer. I go eat dinner. I come back down here, and I'm here till midnight. So this is my world. Welcome to it.
Yeah. Do you feel less productive or as productive?
I feel less productive because I have internet all the time. I would be more productive if I had like a week with no internet at all and just a computer and a word processor. I would get a lot of stuff done. But now that so much of the stuff I'm doing is internet, things like this, running the website, Twitter is a mind suck. That's where everything gets lost. So.
Yeah, Twitter, I keep positive.
Yeah.
Twitter I use just for books, just to talk to people about books and science fiction and entertainment stuff. Kurt and I are avidly apolitical. We don't ever want to talk politics publicly. We're never going to put politics in our book. Rascals is not a political thing. It's for everybody, and it doesn't matter where you stand. But Twitter can be really negative, and I always kind of navigate really, really, really carefully on Twitter.
Sometimes you go into Twitter, so you got to make the decision right away. Am I a shark or am I a jet? Because that's all it is. It's a rumble. You're waiting.
Sad.
I don't know why that is. It just it does that to us. Hammer of Doom in the chat. Thank you. Somebody in the chat finally speaking up. We thought you were all sleeping. BC has been transshipping plague to every other province. So he's talking about the beer bug there. Yep. Blame it on
Hammer of Doom must be Canadian.
Yeah, we have a lot of Canadian friends up there. We have the folks from Kitchener that run a Comic Con. We have them on every once in a while and talk with them. Had some other Canadian comics. I almost said Comicsgate people, and just because they were Comicsgate people does not mean that everybody comes on as Comicsgate. The comic producers is what I'm going to say. Crowdfunded comics. But we love having the people on here to talk about their books. I learned so much about doing it. Maybe someday I will actually take the plunge. I'll tell you what really stops me is the fact I see these. You're very fortunate in that you're working with a team to put this book together.
Just one other guy.
Yeah, well, 2 guys is all it takes to be a team.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of writers who will come up with a goal, it's like $5,000, $6,000. And what I learned was that, I have to set it at 6,000 because I couldn't crowdfund the book until it was done. And that meant I had to pay the artist up front because he's not into it for the crowdfunding. He's like, pay me my page rate and here are your pages. So if you're a writer, and you're already at a disadvantage that you've really got to push your book. No,
huge. Like, so now imagine you're looking at that traditional market that I was in.
Oh God. So
remember, I was talking about, you got to get 7 pages, you got to get the artist, you got to get whatever. We're talking 7 pages and a cover, right?
Right.
So now if you're going to find a good artist, right? And you're going to have to pay that artist, you're at least $100-something a page.
Yep.
So and then it's going to be 200, 300 for that cover because it's fully, it's really a good piece of work. And now you have a logo and you bought the logo from the artist and all that stuff. You're into it for $1,000. with no guaranteed results. There's no guarantee anybody's ever going to see that work that you put all of that time and that money into. And that artist, you know, got paid for the work and put the time and the money into. But for the crowdfunding, I think you know, for somebody in that situation, the writer is maybe at a little more of an advantage, because you can say, listen, we've set a goal to the artist. If we hit this goal, you get paid first. You know, it's if you do the work and you believe in the work, then, you know, let's do this together and you can get paid. And then we'll make the books happen, and we'll cut it from there. You didn't have that option if you're just out there pitching.
But they still got to have a little bit of faith in the process, because they don't want to do the work and you don't fund if you miss funding. And you definitely.
But I think that's a good guarantee. Yeah, I think if you're with an artist who wants to, because you need a partner. You know, for my first project, Ray Gun, I was I did pay the artist, but he was a partner. You know, we really work closely together. His name's Alonzo Molina. He's an incredibly talented artist. And he did amazing work. And he did the work at such a high level because he believed in the story. Now I'm with Kurt. And like I said, this is completely co-created. Kurt's 100% invested, and you can tell. Yeah. You can tell from the work. It's like you said, when you see an artist who's not enthused, you know, it's not there. It's not dynamic. It's not fun. And, you know, we want to keep it playful. We want to keep it fun.
Well, it looks like you guys are having a lot of fun with this. Let's run that video one more time here, just because I want to take this out on a supercharged high energy note. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rascals. And just to reiterate what you're looking at here, the Rascals are a anthropomorphic punk rock band who have been cursed to forever run into supernatural events until they play a song better than the one that got them cursed in the first place.
Yes.
Very much like the old Josie and the Pussycats cartoon I used to mentioned early on. But it's a comic book. It's not a cartoon show. And this is for the artist edition, which steps you through the process of building it. This is going to come with all kinds of good stuff. You get your sketch card, 5 random stickers. Walk us through quickly once more what's inside the artist edition as far as how it breaks down.
So the artist edition comes signed and with an interior sketch, much like this one, done by Kurt. It's limited to 100 copies. It shows all of Kurt's original line work and base color scheme. And then at the back of the book, it's going to take you step by step through the process of how we create the book using the old Marvel style that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby used to make. Oh, I got one thing I want to show you too. Can you go up to where you see the banner? Yeah, go up to where you see the banner there. I'm very, very happy. Right there.
Am I on it? Okay.
Yeah. Do you see something there that reminds you of maybe comics from yesteryear?
Oh.
Editor's note.
Oh, there you go. Yes. I hadn't read that far down yet. And you said smaller font. Yeah. It used to be they just say, yeah, this happened here. And yep. You know what? It didn't stop you from enjoying the story that something happened somewhere at some point. You just kind of went.
So it's going to have all of the original line work. It's going to come, I think it's coming with a sketch card and 5 stickers.
Yep.
And we're also putting up again the book 1, Crossroads at Porksburg, that details the origin story of the Rascals. This one is the full completed book, and that will be coming with interior sketch signed by Kurt, sketch card, and a bunch of stickers.
Both, and there's the Banshee. Now
That's the Banshee.
This one's in color, so we've graduated to a color page here.
So if you look, that's test. So basically, Kurt, what he'll do is after he does the original line work and he lays down some of the inks, he'll start going through different color schemes to see what's going on with the lighting. That's why if you look at the completed book, he gets this fantastic ability with the lighting and the colors, because the Rascals just pop like crazy on the page. We get this effect by doing all of this testing. So that's another thing where if somebody wants to look at the creative process, they're going to see how Kurt's putting the page together. And I think for, collectors, it's going to be a big thing. I think for people that love a fun, bombastic story, it's going to be a good thing. And I think creators are really, really going to like this. Absolutely. Because they're going to be able to see our creative process, both the written process and the art.
So this is a 40-page artist edition. It's $15 American, $20 Canadian, or you could get book 1 already finished and signed for $11 USD, $15 CAD. You should really hit both of them. Just throw out $30 and get them both together. I'm sure you guys have some method of combining shipping if they pick them both. If not, something else to work on. Cannot recommend this one enough. I think this one is definitely our push list, and we recommend that you go right down to the description below where there is a link. Book 1 is already printed. Book 2 is done, and book 2 is the artist edition. All it's got to do is go to the printer. So that's done. You just got to fund it and say, okay, now print. You'll have it by Christmas.
We're hoping we can get it to people by Christmas. The campaign ends November 15th. We need 3 weeks to ship it out, and it'll be early December, and we're really hoping that we can get it to people in a week from Vancouver.
Post office before Christmas. You probably have it by then. And they're shipping from. I guess they're fulfilling from Canada.
From Vancouver.
Okay. So it shouldn't take all that long at all. I know you said you're in Japan. I'm like, ooh, wait a second. Shipping just changed, but
takes a while to get here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know people who are shipping to Japan and to Australia. They're like, yeah, when this crowdfunding thing first started, they just got the book. So
I was having people like left, right, and center sending me pages of, oh, look, we got our book, and there's stickers on their computers and stuff. And I was like, cool, I really want to see it. And then weeks later, I got mine. Very happy.
All right. Well, Greg, appreciate you being on the show tonight. Very happy.
Thank you for having me.
When you finish out this particular project and you go on to the actual finished book 2, would love to have you back on again and
thank you.
Push some of those out to our viewers. I honestly swear we have some. It's been a kind of a quiet night tonight. I don't know if there's a presidential debate on or something, but or if everybody just kind of fell asleep. Something happened today. That's all I can tell you. Usually we have discussion and backing, but we'll have you back and make up for that. And I'm going to just take the outro video here and play it. And we thank everybody in the chat for showing up. I hope to see you again. You know what? Here's where I tell you who's coming on tomorrow. I have a big old blank slot here on Friday. So if you are somebody who is into pushing your comics, hit me up in the DMs at Critical Blast on Twitter and let me know that you'd like to take that spot. Saturday night, we have Nandor Fox Schaefer bringing out Seasons Volume 2 Summer, which is an interesting looking book. We hope you'll be here for that. And we thank you for showing up.
Hi. Thanks for stopping by for another Critical Blast video. The internet is a big place, and we know there are lots of other places you could be other than here, and we appreciate you being here immensely. If you enjoyed this kind of content, We hope you'll return for more. If you click the subscribe button, you'll get a little notification of when we produce new video content. If you would like to help the channel out, there are many ways to do so. Just visiting our main hub, criticalblast.com, will do wonders. But if you're more of a show me the merchandise type of person, there are links in the description of this video to our t-shirt shop, as well as links to Amazon for the books we publish under the Critical Blast Publishing imprint, including the urban fantasy anthology Gods and Services and the YA superhero novel Bulletproof by Stephen J. Mitchell. Thanks again for visiting this video. We hope you had a blast.